Warning: this series may contain discussions about the accountancy profession, jargon of a financial nature, and some really engaging content. Episode 2: Those skeptical about using an outsourcer, the meaning of business advisory, and the background of Cornish Accounting Solutions. We're back with another installment of that GI video podcast with Managing Director at Cornish Accounting Solutions, Paul Miller. In this episode, Paul discusses the advice he would give to those skeptical about working with an outsourcer, as well as what business advisory means to him. Paul also provides a further insight into the background of Cornish Accounting Solutions.
You touched on so many really great points there where I think that the service of GI is incredibly valuable to customers. I think, a talent gap or finding the resource in the UK can be, a big hurdle that a lot of practitioners come up against. And knowing that GI are there in both appetites, i.e. we've got an influx of work, we need additional help or service, or even, as an addition to your team. But I know COVID has, very much so changed the world and the whole perception of working from home. How it happens to be at the moment now is you've got a member of team working from home in India as opposed to working from home in the UK, right? You have a really great perception, understanding, and obviously, as you've mentioned, you've been working with outsourcers for some time. What advice would you give to anybody that is thinking about it or is potentially skeptical about working with an outsourcer?
Well, last year changed our perception, our belief in the way the world operates and what normality is. We are actually in a brave new world at the moment. And the phrase, the world is your oyster, is actually true to us today as it was a few years ago. And I think for people, it's one of those things that unless you try it, how do you know it's not for you? Because we always assume, we all have this perception about, oh no, it won't work. It isn't quite right for us. We don't have the right type of clients. But again, how do you know in that? Is that a false belief? Potentially, yes. And until you've actually done it, you don't really know whether it works for you. And what I love about the GI resource is that what it does is free up our UK team to talk to our clients, because the GI team, under the way that we work at the moment, won't necessarily have any direct interaction with our clients. So it actually frees up our UK team to deal with queries on Xero, deal with queries, tax queries, etc. So it's actually making the best use of our own resource, which is our people.
Absolutely. I think now more than ever, businesses need accountants, and there's the compliance offering that a practice does, which is, the way has been talked about from other practitioners on series that we've done as being that's the stuff you need to do to keep yourself out of prison, right? Actually, the business advisory services that comes from regular communication and contact with clients, every software vendor, every outsourcer has been banging the same drum for several years now. It's all about that business advisory service, right? And I guess freeing up that time gives you more time back with clients to obviously add value to those relationships. When we say business advisory, what does that mean to you, Paul?
Business advisory is a wide-ranging topic, and the second word is advisory. It's advice. It's actually helping clients. But I think potentially we've missed a bigger issue here, in that if you don't have a relationship with a client, which is generally built up over compliance work, you don't get the opportunity to provide advisory work, whatever that is, whether that's goal setting, mentoring, cash flow forecasts, profit analysis, whatever it is. First of all, we need to build that relationship. We need to build that trust. So someone is able to take your word on what you think is best for them, or how we would approach things, what the potential solutions are. But it is very rare, in my experience, that you will actually do advisory work for someone that you don't have a relationship with, someone you don't have trust with, someone that you don't do compliance work for. So I think it isn't a magic solution that, oh, look, I've got this piece of software and it will do wonderful things. Believe me, I have tried that. I've had a piece of wonderful software and said, right, there's this report that I think you need to do. And actually what you're trying to do is that you're trying to, before you understand what the problems are, so you can offer solutions, you just think actually what you need is a report. Whereas actually what you need is some understanding, some experience, some knowledge which invariably will come from the compliance work, because that gives us the nuts and bolts of how that business runs and works or doesn't work, or things to do. But without that experience, without that understanding, without that knowledge, you can't actually potentially offer solutions when the opportunity arises to problems that the business owner has.
Absolutely. So having the time, it's the analogy of the chicken or the egg, right? Which comes first? You need to have the time free and available to invest before you can, look at those additional value-added services. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I guess in particular for the case study, it'd be great to get a bit more about you, an introduction. I know you mentioned before we started the recording, Paul, a few other points that you're involved with. Absolutely, please tell us more about you, the background, the practice. That'd be great.
So for me, I'm not the person who was age 6 always wanted to be an accountant. I sort of drifted into it in 1983. I was on the dole. I was unemployed for a while, and my dad said to me, "Do you fancy a career in accountancy?" So the first week in April '83, I applied to KPMG, or Peat Moore Mitchell as it was then. Second week, I had my interview, and the third week, I started work. And I didn't find my accountancy exams easy, because they're not. But for me, I know people who are technically more competent, who found passing their accountancy exams easier than I did. But for me, it's all about building a business. It's all about talking to people, building relationships. And I think it's the old Richard Branson theory, isn't it? That what you do is you surround yourself with people who have complementary skills, who actually are more intelligent than you, who could actually help you on your journey. And I think during my career, I've been lucky and fortunate to have found people like Heather Townsend, my coach. Well, I think I'm probably a bit of a challenge to her, in that I don't necessarily agree with everything. I have my own opinion. I'm a little bit of a slow burn. You can plant a seed, but you actually need to let me have time to germinate and allow it to grow. It won't happen overnight, but eventually I will get that message. And I think, like a lot of people in life and in business, you have to learn the lesson. You have to learn the lesson yourself. It's all well and good being taught by a textbook, or the man down the pub says this is what you should do. But when it costs you money, you actually do things, because people do things for two reasons. They either do it to avoid gain, for gain, so actually that there's a lot in it for them, or to avoid pain, that the pain is so strong, so awful, that they actually do something. And I think for me, in my life, there have been decisions where I've made things because the pain has been actually so intense, so awful, that actually you need to make those decisions to change. And I think, during my career, I've been fortunate in that I've been treasurer of a local community centre for 20 years now. And a few years ago, probably about 5 years ago, we got the Queen's Award for voluntary services for the charity. Camilla came down to open the community centre, and I was quite fortunate to go to Buckingham Palace to a garden party. My wife at the time said, "Are you going to go?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't think I will. No, I don't really want to." And she said to me, "Well, come on, Paul, don't be an idiot. You're never going to get a chance again. You need to go." And like most of us, we listened to her indoors, the pearls of wisdom that our nearest and dearest actually impart to us, and we actually do something about it. So I went to the garden party. It was quite amazing. James and I were talking about the cucumber sandwiches that you had, and what is the cut of the cucumber sandwiches. And I wouldn't want to spoil it for anybody who gets the opportunity to go for a garden party, but it may not necessarily be what you think. It might not be the shape that you think. And I think it's just a tremendous opportunity. And I've been quite fortunate to be instrumental in helping a number of things, a number of local organisations, and actually giving something back to the community. And it was only recently that I applied to be one of the Santander mentors, the Women in Business mentoring program, and I was fortunate to be selected one of 110 mentors in the country. And I think for all of us who've been in business a while, it's almost beholden on us that we actually have to give something back to the community and to help the young people learn the lessons where we have made mistakes. So actually they make different mistakes to us rather than the same ones.
Couldn't agree more. To recap on that, there's one point in particular which you've mentioned, and the support that you get from Heather as being part of the Accountant Millionaires Club, right? The AMC, as it was first said to me, and I was like, "What's the AMC?" "Oh yeah, of course, right, I get it." I'm having conversations, the commercial team here in the UK are having many conversations with other members of the Account Millionaires Club. What would you say to anyone that hadn't spoken to GI as to why they might?
Well, I think, what have you got to lose? We all talk to a lot of people, and I think what you need to do is have conversations, build the understanding, to give you the evidence to actually enable you to make the decision whether it's right for you or not. And until you do it, you will never know.
Fantastic.
And I think, for the sake of quarter an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, to have a chat about how it might work, what the process is, what's involved, why wouldn't you do it? It's a no-brainer.
Thinking of outsourcing? Want to know more? Get in contact with us via our website or email us directly at solutions@gioutsourcing.com. More episodes coming soon, so stay tuned.